It is week 2, and we are coming at you guys with 5 must-buy running back trade targets. Danny, why don't you get it kicked off with your first trade target, Omarion Hampton?
Yeah, and with Omarion Hampton, it's funny that we have to, validate a rookie running back coming off of his first game as a trade target, but the sentiment leaving that game against the Chiefs kind of seemed negative, like he was not explosive and he didn't have an efficient day. It's like the Chiefs held Saquon Barkley in the Super Bowl to negative 45 rush yards over expected. Guess what, folks? The Chiefs, they have a really good run defense. What we have to look at from that game, however, is the usage that Omarion Hampton got. 80+% of the snaps, 80+% of the rushing attempts. He was the clear bell cow back for this Chargers offense. And it's not going to be every week where they're getting manhandled on the interior. We got the Chiefs defensive line penetrating every rush snap. That's not going to happen each and every week. With Omarion Hampton, he has his bounce back week as soon as week 2. They play the Raiders this week. And I would not be shocked if Omarion Hampton was a top 5 to 10 running back on the week with more efficiency, with more explosives, playing a less organized defense this week.
Yeah, and I feel like it's pretty easy to get to Omarion Hampton. Like, I have personal experience trying to make a trade with someone who was after Omarion Hampton, and basically one of my league mates was inquiring about him and basically was telling me that he viewed him as probably like a mid RB2 or a guy that, you'd be taking if we redrafted today in like the 5th, 6th round. And I think that's going to be the general sentiment around a lot of people's leagues, because a lot of people go, oh, Najee Harris, he's a big name. He's been fantasy relevant before. He's going to be more involved going forward. And you should be able to make trades like Tony Pollard and George Pickens for Omarion Hampton and Travis Hunter, Tyrone Tracy and Travis Hunter for Omarion Hampton, Zach Ertz. Like, some of the trades that you guys can see courtesy of our trade finder are definitely what Hampton's going to go for on the open market. I didn't really change my view of him at all. Like, I had him an early 3rd round pick coming into the year in fantasy football, and I view him basically, if we redrafted today, as again an early 3rd round pick.
Yeah, and if anything, I'm more optimistic. Seeing that type of stranglehold in week 1, we know rookies inherently get better, especially a guy that never lacked in terms of the external traits, the size, the speed, the workhorse profile. It's more so the intangibles of his game. A young running back kind of wanted to get his legs under him, and that'll happen. I mean, the Chiefs weren't allowing a lot of explosive lanes. Omarion Hampton wasn't generating them, but like we said, he's going against the Raiders. I would not be shocked if he was the breakout of the week, and I actually have him as my RB12 in week 2.
Well, yeah, we comped him to Jonathan Taylor coming out of school. Jonathan Taylor in his first game had 9 carries. He had 33% of the snaps. Like, the fact that Omarion Hampton already commanded basically workhorse usage on an offense and an offensive line that was moving people, even despite the tough matchup. I was really impressed with how the Chargers offensive line played. Of course, Joe Alt, an absolute stud. I believe he was the highest graded tackle on PFF in week 1. And like you said, Raiders, get right game all day. All day, get right game. Omarion Hampton's a gap runner. You got to blow open holes for this dude, and he'll take it to the house potentially. That's the 70-yard touchdown is coming for Omarion Hampton. It's just, once it happens, buying window's closed.
And that's the problem, right? Because people haven't seen that yet. The need for that instant gratification, the need to actually watch him on Sunday go out and do it. He's going to do it this Monday. It's not going to be Sunday, but it's going to be on a Monday night.
Yeah, also a 10 p.m. kickoff. East Coast Unks are down tremendously for a 10 p.m. kickoff. Of course, I have to stay up for this game. I have Ladd McConkey and the Chargers defense going.
You're going to have to make clips.
So I'm going to have to be up till 1 a.m. with a cup of, coffee or something, because I can't stay up that late. My trade target that I'm going after right now, and this is not a buy low, this is a buy high. Travis Etienne.
Ooh.
High-end RB2. Who's right now probably available for about mid to low end RB2 prices. It will depend on your league. Some people will know exactly what's going on. Tank Bigsby, of course, was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. I am buying high on Travis Etienne before your league mates realize exactly how valuable this guy is about to be for the rest of the season. He was RB7 in points per game just 2 years ago, former 1st round pick, finished as a top 7 running back in total targets with over 70 in 2023. This is Trevor Lawrence's guy. It's been that way since 2017, freshman year at Clemson. He's now Liam Cohen's guy as well, because he traded away, jettisoned his biggest early down competition, especially. The run game will be unrecognizable in 2025 than it was in 2024. We already saw what this impact looked like on Travis Etienne. That was the best rushing performance I've seen from him in a long time. And in 2024, the Jags were a bottom 5 offensive line in run blocking. In week 1, they were a top 6 offensive line in run blocking. This is Travis's job. Tootin is the handcuff. Love Tootin in Dynasty, even though with a good season, I think Etienne could even be extended from a Dynasty perspective. I know Danny's going to disagree, and we're not going to spoil anything that's going to be coming up on the Flock League, but I'm telling you right now, the way that I look at this is that, yes, Byshell Tutin's going to be involved. He's going to be a change of pace guy. He'll have a role. But Travis is my RB15 rest of season because I saw everything I needed to see in that first game, and I think it will continue. I got a guy who's going to get all of the good work. He's going to get the early down stuff. He's going to get the third down stuff. He's going to get the red zone stuff. And I do think this offense probably even has better days ahead from what they showed against Carolina in week 1.
I don't disagree in premise. Again, I do have Travis Etienne as my RB18 rest of the season. I agree that if he's being valued, oh, we only saw it 1 week, we need to see it more. If that's kind of the sentiment in your league, I do agree that he's a buy. But I also don't think that it's a foregone conclusion going forward that this is going to be how the backfield looks each and every week. We also have to keep in mind LaQuinn Allen, Byshell Tutin, they were both playing in their first career NFL games. The team literally trades away Tank Bigsby. Yes, that's a very, very good plus for Travis Etienne. Very, very good news for him if you drafted him in the 8th round. I think he's going to be a great value where you took him there. But at the same time, I also think it's good news for Byshell Tutin to potentially take that carry share. I think initially, I agree, Travis Etienne's probably going to be that 65% carry guy. But I do think as the season goes along, especially as Travis Etienne, takes more carries, Byshell Tutin the young legs, we could eventually see that workload kind of eaten into. That's my take on it.
I don't disagree with you. I think that's definitely possible. But right now, you can get Travis Etienne for Tony Pollard, for Ricky Pearsall, for Travis Kelce, for Keon Coleman and Tyrone Tracy. I think people still view Travis Etienne in the light that where they drafted him, which is probably the 7th or the 8th or the 9th round. And people don't realize that if we redraft him today, he'd be like a 3-4 turn pick in my rankings.
You think 3-4? Okay. Yeah. I was going to say 4th, maybe 5th, but yeah, around there.
Him, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, James Cook, they're all in the same territory for me now, based on the information we have with Bigsby on the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm not quite above those guys, but again, like I said, he's at 18 for me. I don't disagree with the premise, and I mean, him versus Kamara and Chuba Hubbard types would kind of be in that discussion for me. So
yeah, he's behind those guys that I just mentioned for me, but he is in that tier for me. He's the very end of that tier is how I would value him. Again, early 4th round probably is where I would take him if we were redrafting today.
Yeah, and funny enough, you mentioned in one of those trade packages to trade this guy away. And I agree in the premise. If it was this guy plus that small piece to get Etienne, I would make that type of deal. But overall, I'm trying to buy Tyrone Tracy because people are going to look at it. They're going to say, well, it's the New York Giants offense. They look terrific. Wow, Tyrone Tracy, he only scored 5.5 PPR points. The team just drafted Cam Scatterby. I think leaving week 1, the sentiment on Tyrone Tracy has been negative when in fact, I think the uses that we got would depict him potentially being the workhorse of this team. 73% of the snaps, 59% of the team carries, and 67% of the routes in this Giants debut. And don't get me wrong, there will be games where this Giants offense looks like a complete train wreck, like they did against the Washington Commanders. In fact, they might look like a complete train wreck again against the Cowboys this week. Going on the road, playing the Cowboys, there's a very good chance that we might be able to overwhelm that offensive line. And it could pose for a bad situation for this Giants offense. However, what has exactly changed from last year where Tyrone Tracy operated as this team's main running back 1 for one of the worst offenses in the league? We saw Tommy DeVito out there. We saw how the offense looked with Daniel Jones. The offense for the Giants last year wasn't good anyways, and he was a top 25 level running back. Guess what? He's not being valued as a top 25 running back on the market right now. I think you can get him closer to that running back 30, running back 31 level price tags given some of the emergencies. And if you can get that, I think that's an absolute steal. I think you're currently getting Tyrone Tracy on his floor, and there is still upside where if Russ starts to play better, or if the offensive situation doesn't get better as a whole, at least you have that Jackson Dart wild card as well. So really when I'm looking at it, Tyrone Tracy, he's being valued at his basement. There's really no possibility I can look at it where the clear running back 1 on a team is going to be going off the board as the RB30 in price tags, especially knowing that it's a young guy with juice like we saw last year.
Yeah, I think we're a little, I obviously love Tracy pre-season and I still do. But I do have him RB28. So I guess my opinion on this whole thing is that I actually just think he didn't lose or gain any value. And I think that the market probably views him about where he should be going. He's a high end RB3. The market views him as a high end RB3. I don't really see a world where he's a mid RB2 this year, unless there was a bunch of injuries and things of that nature. Cause for him to be a mid RB2, he'd have to outscore Chuba Hubbard and those type of guys.
Sure. My counter to that, however, is we kind of knew exactly what we're going to get, yes, but there are guys that went after him that maybe have more buzz right now. Because when we look at some of these trades, I doubt you can get Tyrone Tracy plus for Michael Pittman Jr. But if you can move Michael Pittman for Tyrone Tracy, I would perfectly be willing to do that in a running back needy situation. I would still prefer Tyrone Tracy to David Montgomery rest of the season. You package up Tyrone Tracy, Terry McLaurin versus DK Metcalf. Terry and Metcalf are basically the same asset, and then you're getting a free Tyrone Tracy there. So realistically, when I'm looking at the trade opportunity, guys like Michael Pittman, guys like Keon Coleman, guys like that went after Tyrone Tracy, you might be able to even get Tracy plus for given the disappointing box score.
Yeah. I don't disagree in premise that if people are just going to look at the box score and look at the Giants offense, that you could probably get him as like a throw in or a guy that's like basically treated as like a low end flex play. And he's probably more than that. I just think in sharper formats, people are going to pay attention to the usage and realize that he's probably a high end RB3. And
that's why these videos are geared to everyone, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Scatterboo is obviously not really a factor as of this moment, but he could become a factor as the season goes along, kind of similar to what you said, pushback wise, Tootin versus Etienne. It could be that, hey, if Tracy continues to be inefficient, especially just on carries, they could see Scatterboo, get more carries on early downs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this depends on Tracy flat out playing better. I just don't think they're going to get overwhelmed in the trenches like they did against the Commanders. But maybe that happens for one more week. So maybe you wait until after week 2 when the Cowboys probably thrash the Giants and you can buy low on them.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of a guy who might actually be a better buy next week, Isiah Pacheco is my other buy that I have here. And then we'll have a shared buy at the end. Again, with all of these guys, similar to what we said in the wide receiver video, you're trying to, depict what are they? Like we define what this guy is. Is he a high-end RB2, a mid RB2, a high-end RB1? What is he? And then what does the market view him to be? I view Isiah Pacheco as a mid to low-end RB2 with some upside because he plays for the Chiefs and it's a really good team. It's really important to remember what we're dealing with here and not let one international Friday night game in Brazil against a top 3 run defense knock us off course, because I was really high on Pacheco coming into the season. And yes, I'm a little bit lower on him now based on what I saw in week 1, but Pacheco is still the lead back here. 25 rushing yards on his 5 carries to 16 rushing yards on Kareem Hunt's 5 carries. He's a much better carrier of the football than Kareem Hunt. And I do not think the Chiefs are going to run the ball only 10 times per game with their running back position. They were playing from behind the entire time. The Chargers basically got out to a lead early, and the Chiefs were playing catch up the entire game. There was no Xavier Worthy the entire game, which could be coming back at some point. We don't exactly know. At this point in time, the usage wasn't great, but if there's one positive note that I have for Isiah Pacheco, it's that he did play the majority of the 2-minute drill snaps. So even if Kareem Hunt is going to be involved on the ground, on third down a little bit, I think that Pacheco will get everything that's important, which is the early down stuff, the red zone stuff, and maybe some of the receiving work like we saw in those first 2 games of 2024 before he got injured. Like I said, given that the Chiefs have a good offensive line, a very good, probably 12+ win projection, as we know the Kansas City Chiefs are capable of doing, I still view this guy as a low-end RB2 at worst, with still high-end RB2 upside if things can break right for him and he can really kind of run away with this job. Because the whole thing I said all offseason was that Kareem Hunt doesn't scare me. Rashard Smith doesn't scare me. Elijah Mitchell doesn't scare me. So even if Kareem Hunt's going to be a little bit involved at the beginning of the season, I think once Pacheco starts playing better, he'll continue to gain more of that workload, gain more of that opportunity. And he's available right now, I would guarantee, for RB3 price tags. And I do think at the floor, he's a low-end RB2.
Yeah, I mean, I have him as my RB24 rest of the season. I agree overall. I do think it's a little bit concerning that we saw the split to be where it was, but like you said, he still led the team in opportunities. We still expect that in better game scripts, he's going to get going. The other point I do want to make, though, compared to where I'm at versus where you're at, is, I mean, the Chiefs just throw the ball in the red zone a fuck ton. That's kind of my worry.
That's a fair point.
Like once they get in the red zone again, maybe we start to see, Juju Smith-Schuster types get involved. Obviously, Travis Kelce catches a touchdown in that game. Noah Gray was kind of used, 45% of the snaps in that game. I just feel like for the most part, when you're in the red area and you don't trust your running backs, you're going to see a lot of Patrick Mahomes balls. Pause.
Yeah, that's fair. You're going to see a lot of Patrick Mahomes' balls, guaranteed.
Sorry. Yeah, you definitely are. Let's go to our shared buy though, Corey, and we'll take it away with your Tampa Bay Buccaneer here. And I completely agree with Bucky Irving.
Yeah, I mean, we probably should have talked about him first because he's the most like high-end running back that you can buy right now. I view him mid RB1 rest of season. Where do I have him ranked rest of season? He's my RB7 rest of season. I have him. I moved him since over Devon Etienne because I just think that the Miami Dolphins are an absolute hurricane waiting to happen. So I think that Bucky Irving legitimately could finish as a top 3 running back this season based on the usage that we saw in week 1. The best part about Bucky Irving in week 1 was not that he looked solid as a receiver and he got that nice receiving touchdown, or the fact that he has a buy low opportunity because he didn't really have a great day on the ground. The best part about Bucky Irving is that we were watching, in my opinion, the worst iteration of Tampa Bay's offense, because there was no Tristan Wirfs, completely shuffled offensive line. Our center's playing left tackle. We have a guy, Mike Jordan, not that Michael Jordan, playing guard. And ironically, that's the position Michael Jordan played in the NBA. Against a really good Falcons run defense, like legitimately a top 5 run defense from last year. No Chris Godwin, no Jalen McMillan, Emeka Egbuka in his first game, Mike Evans having a down week. Baker played awful in the first half as well. This offense is going to be so much better, especially for and as it relates to Bucky Irving. I was actually pretty impressed with the play calling of Josh Grizzard. I just didn't see a lot of holes being blown open. And that was probably as a result of the offensive line shuffling. So this rocket ship, Bucky Irving, is taking off to a top 3 to 5 season. Legitimately. I actually think he is absolutely capable of doing it. And if you can get him right now, some of these trades that you can see, Jonathan Taylor, Terry McLaurin for Bucky Irving, Devontae Smith, Ricky Pearsall, Devon Achane, Bucky Irving, T. Higgins, 2 guys who had weak box scores this past week. Saquon Barkley and Mike Evans. You want to downgrade at running back, upgrade at receiver, Bucky Irving, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Tony Pollard and Kenneth Walker for Bucky Irving. Are we kidding here? Like, this is a dude that I want to buy into as a legitimate potential RB1 overall candidate, because the workload of 77% of the snaps is vastly different than we saw last year.
Yeah, I mean, when you just contextualize, like you said, all the shuffle that they had up front, playing against a really good Houston front, the efficiency is going to scare some people off, but all it's going to do is make sure that you actually have a buy window on Bucky Irving. Because if he went out there and he was efficient and he got this workload and he punched in, obviously he punches in the receiving touchdown, but maybe he punches in a rushing touchdown as well, the sentiment on Bucky Irving would be completely different than as it is right now. It's so funny how a simple box score affects people's perception on a player so much that it has a stranglehold on what they have the valuations. Because like you said, Bucky Irving, all we needed to see was workhorse usage to know that he's tied to this good offense. He's tied to a good offensive line, especially when Wirfs is healthy and when you got guys at the right position. And Bucky Irving himself may very well be a special player. All this to say that maybe Zach did make the correct choice in the Flock League.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, Devon Achane, I would rather have Bucky Irving rest of the season, to be honest.
I would too.
Like, it's not that I don't like Devon Achane still. He still has an excellent receiving workload and stuff, but like, do you seriously want to subject yourself to the Miami Dolphins every single week? Because I think that this is going, like, here's the other thing. Devon Achane, this is not really about him, but his major calling card was like this great rushing scheme that Mike McDaniel was calling up. And A, that's not happening right now. And B, Mike McDaniel might be looking for a job by week 5.
Dude,
the way things are
offensive line is the worst in the league.
Yeah, like it's
that's saying a lot
because
Houston exists.
Yeah, exactly. Either way, Bucky Irving going up on a Tuesday here. J.K. Dobbins is our first sell. We can go through the sells here. J.K. had a nice debut for Denver. You guys know I love J.K. Dobbins, but R.J. Harvey looked really good. And if anybody out there is buying into Dobbins, thinking that he's kind of going to lock down this backfield all season and be an RB2, like, for example, I would rather have Isiah Pacheco than J.K. Dobbins, but given the box score in week 1, you probably could get Pacheco even plus for J.K. Dobbins at this point. Most casual league mates, like half of my league didn't even know who R.J. Harvey was. And my league is like, been around for like 10 plus years. People are decently sharp, I would say, but they didn't even really know who he was. He was a 2nd round pick, a good prospect. I love J.K. Dobbins, but Harvey is probably the future at some point. Over the next month or two, we're going to see the tide probably shift in this backfield. So I think Dobbins is a great sell high either this week or maybe in the next couple of weeks, because I think he'll be at peak value and people will be viewing him really as like a mid RB2.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. He should be able to get off to another good game or two. But realistically, like you said, the long-term vision of this team is for RJ Harvey to take that 3-down workload. And again, while we did see J.K. Dobbins be the RB1 right now, how many times do we have to see this year in and year out that the rookie running back, especially one that wasn't a clear day 1 pick, kind of has to earn their keep? I mean, we saw with Bucky Irving last year. We saw with Devon Achane against Raheem Mostert the year before. Realistically, the talented young rookie running back is going to be able to get the workload as the season moves along. And in fact, I've referenced this to you before, but we can just point to a 2017 Saints depth chart and kind of look at what their running back touches look like in week 1.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara was basically a non-factor in that first game.
7 touches?
Yeah, exactly. This is typically how it goes with rookie running backs, especially when you play like old school coach Sean Payton.
Who's his coach, by the way? Who's Kamara's coach?
Sean Payton, literally. And also, like, you think of the coaching tree that Sean Payton came up with. Bill Parcells was like, I think there was a quote from Bill Parcells back in the day. It's like, I want to count on my rookies on Thanksgiving. Like by Thanksgiving, I want to be able to count on my rookies. Like he's an old school coach. Like he's not going to just let RJ Harvey be the starting running back, especially when Dobbins is better in pass protection, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think as the weeks go along, I'm not saying you need to sell Dobbins right now if all you're getting is offers for like flex type of production. But I think as the weeks go along, he might gain a little bit more value still, and just be aware of that because he's kind of an early season asset. He's the type of guy that you drafted because you drafted Trevion Henderson in the 5th round or something because you wanted to use a guy maybe to get you by for those first couple of weeks. So Danny, who is your sell? Sorry, that you were looking to shop right now.
And it's funny you mentioned immediate workload because that is the talk of the town on this guy. Everybody and their mother wants to say, he's finally usurped his, starting running back in the backfield. He's finally the team's RB1. And I just simply refuse to believe that after 25 career games of Zach Charbonnet being the clear handcuff to Kenneth Walker, that all of a sudden week 1 this year, they're like, oh yeah, no, you're actually better than Kenneth Walker and you're going to be a running back 1. I think this has a lot more to do with the fact that Kenneth Walker missed time, new offensive coordinator, the foot injury might be lingering, because we also saw in the second half that it was Zach Charbonnet's backfield. In the second half of that game, specifically in the 4th quarter, game on the line, close game against your divisional rival, Zach Charbonnet, 1 carry, 50% of the snaps. Kenneth Walker, 5 carries, 50% of the snaps. It was clear that when the game was on the line that Kenneth Walker was in the game. Yes, I get it. In the first half, it was Zach Charbonnet. He punches in the touchdown. But if the sentiment is in your league that it's a foregone conclusion that he's usurped Kenneth Walker, this is your time to sell. And in fact, I would actually go to the guy who has Kenneth Walker. I'd be like, hey, listen, like Zach Charbonnet got a lot of work here. What would you pay to secure the Seahawks backfield? Because Corey, you and I know in casual leagues, people love to secure their backfields.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many people out there that are going to be Travis Etienne managers trading for Byshell Tootin, who are James Conner managers trading for Trey Benson. Like people love to do it. And especially in this backfield where when there's a clear starter, it's pretty obvious. And that guy's an elite running back like it was last year. When Walker was in, he was great. When Charbonnet was in, he was great. Yeah. People are going to be willing to buy on Zach Charbonnet. I do think like every year there's a week 1 trap. Every year there's like a blatant lie to us in week 1. And I think when you just look at the split of like what happened in the first quarter versus what happened in quarters 2 to 4 in that game, it was very clear that for whatever reason, Kenneth Walker was kind of eased in. Maybe it was because he was coming into the game banged up. I think that's probably the most likely reason that was the case. But even though I feel a little bit different about Kenneth Walker than I did a week ago before the season started, I don't feel that much different about Kenneth Walker. I don't think that Kenneth Walker necessarily is a huge buy because I think you should probably just hold if you have him and maybe just be wary of buying, on Kenneth Walker right now. But definitely, I do think Charbonnet is a sell high in this backfield.
Yeah, I mean, I moved Walker down from RB13 to RB16, so I do agree with that. Yeah, we should take in this information and adjust him a little bit, but at the same time, we both agree Walker easily over Charbonnet, and there is still a big gap until we see this play out yet another week. But right now, I mean, Zach Charbonnet, because of the buzz, because everybody's talking about the usage, I mean, look at some of these deals. Zach Charbonnet for Tyler Warren straight up. I don't think this is going to happen in many competitive leagues, but who knows? Maybe you're in a league that a guy drafted Tyler Warren as his backup in the 10th, and he already has
Sam Laporta or something.
Sam Laporta or TJ Hawkinson or someone like that. And you could say, well, hey, guess what? You drafted Kenneth Walker. Come secure the backfield here, and you still have this guy to start at tight end. Like, there's so much bargaining power you have with a guy like Zach Charbonnet, because especially, too, you could do it straight up for a guy like Tyler Warren, or you can say, hey, you have Kenneth Walker, I have Zach Charbonnet. What, does this bridge the gap, Charbonnet, tear me up from, let's just say, Stephon Diggs to Roma Dunze?
Yeah. No, a lot of those deals make sense. And I can group our shared sell in as the last one. I didn't actually write this one down, so maybe you disagree with me, but I do think it's worth shopping Javonte Williams right now. Oh, and yes. It's not because Javonte Williams isn't like I have him ranked as like a high-end RB3 rest of the season. I do think he's a very solid option. But some of the deals that are going down involving Javonte Williams, simply because he plays for the Cowboys and they have a pretty good offense and that kind of thing, Javonte Williams and T. Higgins for Amon-Ra St. Brown, Javonte Williams straight for Tyler Warren, Javonte Williams straight for Jameson Williams, Javonte Williams and Quinshon Judkins for Kenneth Walker and DeAndre Swift. Like there's moves to be made with Javonte Williams, and I think selling or shopping him as part of a 2-for-1 deal, because there's a very good chance you drafted Javonte Williams as not a starter for you, or at least not a long-term starter for you, especially in more shallower leagues. So trying to trade him up into better options makes a lot of sense.
So I got a stat for you, by the way. So yeah, Javonte, don't get me wrong, you like solid game, but it wasn't like he was creating big chunk plays. It was like, consistently he was putting his head down, getting some tough yards. I got a stat for you. I didn't realize it was this good, but there's this stat from Doug Analytics at Doug_analytics on Twitter that basically charted the offensive rushing success rates on design runs. And the Cowboys this week, going up against that Eagles front, had the number one rushing success rate. So the fact that they were number one in rushing success rate means that they have good scheme, good offensive line play. The fact that they were number one in rushing success rate and weren't creating chunk plays could point to the fact that what if like Javonte does have a struggle week and this team does feel incentivized to make a move like the Eagles did and package a 5 and a 6 or a 5 and a 7 on a running back that can steal touches. Because I still think that's not like a foregone conclusion. It's Javonte's backfield. I think there's still the possibility they could add competition.
There's that. And then I just think that we just saw the peak of Javonte Williams. Like, how does Javonte Williams have a good week? Well, he finds the end zone.
Punches 2 touchdowns.
That's exactly what just happened. We also saw in that exact game, Miles Sanders break off like a 50-yard run, who is definitely the most explosive running back of the two veteran running backs there.
Yeah.
And Jaden Blue was inactive for this game. What happens when Jaden Blue becomes a factor in the backfield, specifically in regards to Javonte Williams?
I think it could be this week.
He might take away some of the third down work that makes Javonte Williams a little bit more appealing. So again, it's not that Javonte Williams is a bad option rest of the season. If you draft him in the 9th round, you're absolutely happy with that. But it would be mismanagement of your roster to not take that hit on Javonte Williams and try and tier it up into something better.
You know what it'd be called, Corey?
Not doing your due diligence is what it'd be called.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, exactly. Genuinely, Jaden Blue, I think he's going to make the lineup this week because obviously Miles Sanders fumbled. And like you said, the receiving skill set alone is a worry if you have Javonte Williams.
Yeah, exactly. So these guys, Charbonnets, Javonte Williams types, J.K. Dobbins types, they were supposed to be good at this time of the year. They were short-term plays. They were early, specifically Javonte and J.K. Dobbins were early season plays. So if you have them, the reason you drafted them is so that you could flip them, especially in casual redraft leagues where people are going to be really excited about early season production. We've only seen one game. They can think whatever they want to think. Maybe some people think out there that Javonte Williams can be a top 15 running back rest of the season. There's probably people in your league that go, Cowboys starting running back. How is he not top 15? He was really good at one point in his career, and now he's finally healthy. There's going to be people who talk themselves into Javonte Williams more than just a guy that, he's probably an every week flex starter, and he got a good performance in week 1.
Wait, wasn't that the same Javonte that went in the 2nd round of drafts a couple years ago?
No, not the same Javonte. That guy wasn't a good athlete, and now he's an even worse athlete after the injury. So, this was our running back trade targets. We got 5 buys for you, 3 sells. Make sure you guys go make some deals in your league. We actually made a deal in our listener league today that was kind of a blockbuster that I tweeted
big
out.
Boy.
Yeah, big time one. It was mainly a receiver deal, so not a whole lot of running back relevant stuff in that conversation. But if you guys do want to use some of the tools that we showcased here, our trade calculator is free to use if you just want to use the expert rankings. If you want specifically my rankings or Danny's rankings inputted in that to get our opinion on your trades, then you need to be a site subscriber for that. But you can check that out. Use the promo code FSC over on flockfantasy.com. Start your 7-day free trial. Use the trade calculator. Use the trade finder. Use the My Teams feature, check out our week 2 rankings, check out our rest of season rankings. And then maybe at that point, you're like, oh, this is worth my money. I'll sign up for a monthly or a season pass or an annual subscription. If you do sign up for an annual Mother Flocker, you do get a free team review, which we tackle basically Mondays and Thursdays before the games kick off. We go live a little earlier than usual. And now we tackle those team reviews. So definitely check that out if you guys are interested. That'll be linked down below in the pinned comment. But with that being said, peace out and we'll talk to you soon.